Hi, in this section we're introduced to the concept of an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. An IDE is kind of like a one-stop shop for creating and running programs. Please note we use the term running and executing interchangeably in this class. One of the features of an IDE is that it provides a debugging tool which will help you find bugs or errors in your program and correct them so that they run as intended. The IDE we generally use in this class is BlueJ. You may use JDoodle online if you're working from home. Please note, however, that BlueJ is the preferred IDE for this class, and all programming practice instructions and tutorials are presented in the BlueJ environment. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about BlueJ and prepare you for what to expect in your first programming practice. For the purposes of this video, I've created a folder called Java 1. You'll need to create a folder called Java 1 as well in the first programming practice assignment. If you want to create the folder now and work along with me, feel free. At the beginning of each programming practice, you will be required to create a new BlueJ project. You create a new project on the BlueJ main window, this window here. You select Project, New Project, and then you give the project a name. Well, first you ensure that you're in the appropriate location where you want to save the project at, which is the Java 1 folder, and then you give the folder a name. A couple things to note about projects is they should adhere to the following naming protocols. First off, there should be no spaces in the project name. Instead, you're going to want to use capitalization or dashes or underscores. A common practice when combining more than one word is to keep the first letter of the first word lowercase and the first letter of the second word uppercase. I'll show you an example of this in a moment. Additionally, you want to make sure that your project names begin with a letter, not a number or an underscore. So once we have an appropriately formatted project name, then we click Create to create our project. I'm going to name my project BlueJ Intro. So note that the B in BlueJ is lowercase, the I in intro is uppercase. So now that I've got that typed appropriately, I go ahead and click Create. So the BlueJ main window, it opens again, but now it's slightly different. Instead, up at the top it says BlueJ, and then it gives the name of the project that I'm working in, which is currently BlueJ Intro. These buttons along the side have changed a little bit, and now I've got this little paper icon. Now I'm going to create a class and name the new class the same name as my project, BlueJ Intro. We're going to use the same naming protocols that govern how we name our project. Those same things apply to our class. So to create a new class, we're going to click the New Class button, and then we're going to just type our name. We're going to ensure that the class radio button at the top is selected, and we're going to click OK. So now you'll notice that alongside the little paper icon is a new orange rectangle, and at the top of the rectangle is the class and project name, BlueJ Intro. The little box has diagonal stripes, which means that the class has not yet been compiled. After I modify the program and compile it, which means I check it to make sure there's no bugs, then the diagonal lines will be removed. To access the class and begin modifying your program, you double-click the class, which opens the editor. Okay, first things first, there's a lot of stuff already listed in the program. I know that it probably looks confusing and a little scary. Don't worry, we'll delete most of it and begin with a fairly blank slate. One part that will stay and should be included in every program you create and submit is the program header. It is the section of the program at the top that's in blue and that now I've highlighted in yellow. Note the symbols at the beginning of every line of code in the program header. This set of symbols creates a multi-line comment. Comments are not compiled or executed. Instead, they serve to provide information about the program, explaining the purpose of the program, the purpose of a particular programming element, information about the program creator, or information about when the program was created. BlueJ classes come with a built-in 3-part program that includes the program description, the @author line, and the @version line. You must modify each of these elements. Each programming practice will provide an overview which you can use to summarize and develop a program description. Your name should be included in the author line, and the date should be listed in the version line. Please note, I will not accept programs that do not include your name. If a program header of a program submitted does not include your name or the student name, it will receive a 0 and the student will be required to resubmit. It's important to note that the points are awarded for a properly formatted programming header, so missing elements will mean a deduction of points. So here's an example of my developed program header. Okay, so there, it's been changed. Okay. Next, you'll notice the class header, this line. Okay. This is followed by an opening curly bracket. Okay. Java uses curly brackets, an opening and a closing one down here, to denote the beginning and the end of a programming element, such as a class or a method. BlueJ also uses color to denote different programming elements. So you'll be introduced to a lot of different color coding as you learn different programming elements. In this example, though, you'll notice that the class information has a green background, and this yellow, which is a method, the yellow background denotes a method. Okay. For the purpose of this video and most of the programming practices that we complete in this class, this information listed between the classes opening and closing curly brackets are not needed, so therefore I'm going to highlight it all and delete it. Now I'll add the main method. If you're working along with me, this is the first of many main methods that you'll develop. Some important things to understand about the main method. The main method runs the program. In the future, you'll add additional methods, but they will not run the program. Instead, these other methods will be called from within the main method, and they'll briefly perform an action, and then the focus of the program will return to the main method. Secondly, there can only be one main method within a program. As you're working on programming practices and you're making changes and you're expected to make changes, the changes that you make will need to be done in the main method. You cannot add a new method or try to add a similar method intended to run the program. There is only one main method. The main method, like the class, has a set of curly brackets. The curly brackets of the main method are placed within the curly brackets of the BlueJ intro class. Now I've added what is known as a single line comment. This type of comment is used to comment text on a single line in the BlueJ window. If the text of a comment were to go beyond the single line and flow into the line below, the text below would no longer be a comment. So be sure you understand the syntax difference. Syntax meaning how you write the program. Make sure you know the syntax difference between multi-line comments and single line comments. Now I've added a series of print statements. It's important to note that Java has a couple of different print methods, one being print, println, and printf. We'll mainly use print and println methods within the scope of this class, and I'll explain their differences momentarily. However, first I want to dissect the elements of a basic print statement. The first element is system. System is a built-in class in Java. Some built-in classes must be imported to use, however, the system class does not. The system class has a variety of functions, for instance, in and out. We're going to use system.out along with an appropriate print method to print to the output window. You may have noticed parentheses used in the main method. You will also note that parentheses are used in the println and print methods here. Parentheses are used to list method arguments. Although not every method might have arguments, all methods will include parentheses, even if they're empty. You'll learn more about arguments later. The arguments of the current print methods are the text that's going to be printed to the screen. The text to be printed is placed between quotation marks, and once both the beginning and the closing quotation marks have been typed, BlueJ changes the text color to green. The parentheses of a print method can include text, as in this example. They can also include reference variables and calls to methods. You'll learn about those in future sections. Note that all three print statements end with a semicolon. Java statements all end in semicolons. Java headers, like the class header or the main method header, are not statements, but rather the beginning of a programming element, thus they have curly brackets. The print and println method differ slightly in the way text is printed to the screen. These differences can often affect the readability of a program. I believe usability, that is the ease of use of a program by a user, is paramount when developing programs. Therefore, readability is a major issue. Please note I do deduct points when programming of printed text or prompts affects the readability of a program. I've added 3 print statements. The first print statement uses the println method. The following 2 uses the print method. The difference between these is what happens to the cursor once the print statement has been printed to the output window. In the instance of the println method, the cursor will move to a new line after printing the text to the screen. Any subsequent print statements would begin on the line below. The print method, however, does not move the cursor, and any subsequent print statement would begin on the same line just printed. As such, it's very important to consider spacing. So let's see what the output of this program looks like to understand how these print methods differ. In order to see the output of the print statements, we must first compile our program, which checks for bugs. If no bugs exist in the program, we can run the program and see the output in the output window. Let's do that now. To compile, click the Compile button at the top of the program editor. You may have to click twice. The first click saves the program. The second click begins the compile process. If there are no bugs in the program, you'll see this class compiled, no syntax errors at the bottom of the page. This means that you can run the program. If you have bugs in the program, BlueJ will try to help you and provide information down here, as well as highlight which line has the bug in it. Sometimes you may have multiple bugs in a program. If that's the case, you're going to have to continue to click the Compile button to find and fix each program bug. When the program compiles, return to the main BlueJ window, right-click the class and select Void Main. This will run the main method. Note that the first print statement is printed on its own line in the output window. The next 2 print statements are printed on the same line, one right after the next, with no spacing in between. We can fix the spacing issue by adding a space at the end of the second print statement, like so. I'm going to compile again, and then I'm going to see the output window to see the difference. And you'll note the space between the period and the I of it. Or I can just use the println method in each print statement and have them print on its own line, like so. So that's it for this section. I hope this helps you to begin to work with BlueJ. Remember, if you have questions about this section's concepts, or if you have questions during your programming practices, please reach out to me.